Did you know that Israel doesn't have an extradition law? And the reason I think that's very interesting is because you can't extradite an Israeli citizen, but Israel can extradite who they want to Israel. I saw this really interesting docuseries on Netflix called The Devil Next Door. And it is about this man in Cleveland who was accused of being Ivan the Terrible, who was a horrific guard in Treblinka during the Holocaust, and how he was the one to put people in gas chambers. And it is about how Israel was able to extradite him from Cleveland, Ohio to Israel, and the following events. I highly recommend it. It is a very good docuseries. And the reason why I kind of want to do multiple parts about my thought process is because right now Israel is committing a genocide. And one day they will and need to be tried for their crimes of genocide, for their war crimes, for their violations against humanity. And I just think it's very interesting when I dug in on how this extradition law came into play. It was to protect a murderer. And it really tells you that Israel has just always been the state to protect criminals and pedophiles. And it's something we need to look into. In 1978, Israel amended its extradition law to prohibit the extradition of its own citizens based on concerns that Jewish defendants might not receive a fair trial abroad. This amendment meant Israel would not extradite its nationals, preferring to try them in Israeli courts instead. This law was the source of significant controversy, most notably in the Samuel Scheinbaum case, which led to a further amendment in 1999 that allowed for the extradition of Israeli citizens under specific conditions. Samuel Scheinbaum was an American-Israeli convicted murderer. On September 16, 1997, Scheinbaum, a 17-year-old senior at John F. Kennedy High School in Montgomery County, Maryland, and Aaron Benjamin Needle, a former classmate, killed Alfredo Freddy Enrique Tello Jr. They subsequently dismembered and burned the corpse in Aspen Hill, Maryland. Scheinbaum fled to Israel, where his father, who had an Israeli citizenship, was born. At the time, Israeli law prohibited extradition of Israeli citizens. And he won in the Supreme Court. He was allowed to stay in Israel. And then he ended up killing more people when he tried to escape in 2014. But this is just very interesting to me. I didn't know about the Scheinbaum case, but it seems like Israel has been getting away with so much bullshit for so fucking long. And they use it because they do, under the guise of anti-Semitism. And I'm sorry, I think that's fucking bullshit. Because anyone can cry wolf. And I think that is a form of crying wolf. What I think is really frustrating to me is that no one else gets a choice. These special kind of rules. You only get that with anti-Semitism. And I think that's very frustrating because every kind of anti-ism, any kind of attack on minorities or an attack on a specific community is wrong, is unacceptable. But for whatever reason, because it's an attack on people from Israel and the name of being anti-Semitic, they get special treatment. And I'm sorry, I think that's fucking bullshit. Because how is it that people are able to get away with fucking murder and everything's just fine and dandy? And the reason is it because we don't want to have others be sent to be properly arraigned because we don't want them to experience anti-Semitism. Meanwhile, if anyone said that about someone who was Muslim, someone who was Buddhist, they would be laughed out of the fucking courtroom. The double standards is not acceptable. But I just think that for anyone to extradite an Israeli, the prime minister and the defense and the Knesset, basically, they have to accept. And I'm sorry, you really think that if The Hague and the ICC are like, hey, bring over X, Y, and Z, that Israel is going to allow that? It's not going to fucking happen. And I think this is unprecedented, and it's something more people need to know about. I don't think enough people know about the extradition. That is why Israel is the number one place for pedophiles to go and run to, because they know they cannot be extradited. It is terrifying. And yet, when it comes to a Nazi living in the United States, Israel immediately was able to get him. Understandably so. Like, I'm not excusing the behavior, but I'm just saying it's like, okay, but now Israelis are committing genocide. They need to be held accountable. Palestinians need to be free. There needs to be justice for the violations and the war crimes that are currently happening and have been happening for the past 2 years in Gaza. It's something we need to have a closer look into. Israel does not have extradition laws, so for everyone who's like, how are we going to get justice? We need to demand that these extradition laws change. We need to demand better of our world every single day.